Hey there, hi there, ho there, and a gracious good Saturday morning. Hello there to you. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of UofL women's athletics. It's a shame we don't have anything exciting to talk about. Well, wait a second. Yes, we do. We do have some exciting things to talk about today. First and foremost, of course, being Louisville's win last night in the NCAA tournament. We'll get into that in have a full discussion roundtable and such about how the Cards got rid of Mississippi last night. And it certainly was a lot of fun. But we'd also have some other things planned today. Got stuff going on campus with some nice events. We'll try to get into those a little bit too. In fact, we have four on board today. I think Jared is trying to listen remotely. Uh, and as he put in his text to us, he would try to listen while he was on his way to see Picard. Uh, I'm
Um,
thinking, is John Luc Picard in town? Did the Enterprise land here in Louisville? And is Jared going to get an interview with him?
I mean,
Well,
there are new episodes of Star Trek Picard coming out,
that's right.
but
There is.
I
Autocorrect comes for us all.
yeah, I was gonna say it was probably an autocorrect issue here.
I'm thinking he meant podcast, but somehow his computer said, "Oh, he's talking about Picard. We love
Uh,
Picard." Whatever. Okay. Anyway, he's not with us though. He'll be on site covering lacrosse today at noonish. As the Cards stepping a little further into the depths of hell by playing the number one team in the nation again in Syracuse at noon. So pray for Scott Teeter and his club. Maybe they can pull the upset. Maybe they got inspired by basketball last night. It's hard to say. But as we like to do at the start of the show, we'll catch up with the participants in today's podcast. We'll start it out with Case. Case was working on and possibly finished the Saturday article, sir.
Yeah, I did. I did get it done. Yeah, it was a late night. It was a good thing I set an alarm on my watch before I went to sleep, because I definitely would not have woken up without it, to put it
Uh,
lightly.
I was checking in from time to time to see how you were doing. I'm like, okay, it'll be done eventually. That'll be fun.
Right, we're into the late games in the tournament. There's a lot to say, and
Yeah.
I
Tim,
left the volley when Jeff gave me the out to leave volleyball for Sunday. I was like, "You got it,
yeah,
dude. No rebuttal."
yeah. A 10 p.m. start doesn't help. That's just brutal.
It makes life kind of rough on you. Yes, it do. Daryl in house as well. Daryl, of course, was watching the game with everybody else last night. And Mississippi is gone. How about that?
Man, I was watching the games all day yesterday. They were all excellent, and I just was so distracted with just basketball and how this women's tournament is playing out. It's so much fun to watch. I'm excited for the teams that have advanced, and of course our favorite. And I'm checking out Case's recap now. I'm gonna have to like block off some of my schedule today for this, like the in
Seven
depth.
pages on Google Drive without
Oh
photos.
my gosh, it looks like it.
It's a
I
novel.
really appreciate it though, Casey. You do a great job of like really breaking it down, especially like with for any almost any sport.
Yeah.
So it's just really informative, and I'm sure Coach Walls probably gets wind of this kind of coverage, and I'm sure he appreciates it. So definitely gonna take some time to relive the game last night because it was exciting. So glad to see the Cards move on against a really, as Coach Walls would put it, a really sexy Ole Miss team. So we'll get into that, but the Cards are moving on, and I'm really excited to have another game.
I have to agree with you, Daryl. They have one of the most demonstrative and I think full of energy coaches I've seen on the sidelines in a long time. And Coach
Yeah.
Yo, uh,
Dude,
she's just
I
She's
kinetic energy.
I
she's up
wasn't
there
gonna
with
say it over
Purcell, man.
text, but tell me if you put CC next to her that you don't wouldn't be a little confused.
Yeah, true. Sure enough.
Maybe so. She
They
kind of
look
looks like Des
very
Bird.
alike.
If you guys remember Des
Yeah,
Bird, the
yeah,
early Wallace teams,
absolutely.
that could be Des Bird's sister right there.
Yeah.
And I just, yeah, she's something else. I would like to
So,
see her in 24-hour lockup constraint.
yeah.
What would she do? Oh my God!
Who's got more energy, Coach Yo or Coach Purcell?
Ooh, that's a toughie.
Okay.
Yeah,
We get to find out every year, right?
yeah, 'cause
Yeah,
they play each
they
other
play each
twice,
other.
don't
Yeah,
they?
Rivalry.
yeah,
Yeah. It's like I put the question to Jared
yeah.
last night. I said,
In
"You
state,
can't
even.
be for both. You can't be for both Mississippi and Mississippi State and be credible. You've got to pick one of the two.
Well,
Where are you going to go?
even if you're picking one team over another, you can still respect the other team.
If you're in the state of Mississippi and liking both teams, they're going to send you to Alabama."
Well, I mean, Maya Taylor can apparently like both.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
she left
yeah.
though. She made her mind up. She said, "I tried this one. No, I like this one better. I'm going there." You see, it's written into the state statute laws in Mississippi. You have to choose one of the two. If you cannot choose one of the two, we will either send you to Alabama or you will be banished to Southern Miss.
So it's you to Alabama, where you have to pick between Alabama and Auburn.
And then they'll just say, "Head over to Georgia. They got nothing over there.
Yeah,
Go to Georgia." Wait a second, Georgia Tech. Who are they?
yeah.
Fun in basketball in the South. How about that stuff? The Dare will be watching hoops again today, I'm sure, as I will, and we'll see what happens with that. Of course, we'll get uh, Jeff in the house today. And Jeff was monitoring basketball yesterday. He also went down to campus to check the flooding out. And
Yeah.
while I was there, decided to
Holy
stop by and
cow,
see if anybody was
monsoons.
playing volleyball. Did
Yeah.
the bypasses get flooded over? Do you see
I didn't see any. I didn't go through any of them, but it was a lot of rain yesterday. Set a record, 2 3/4 inches, I think is what they're officially recorded. But
yeah,
but
much of it here.
yeah, the shakes are gone. The withdrawal symptoms are gone. I got to watch volleyball, so that's good. It was a lot of fun. We played Kentucky. And spring play, it's exhibition play, so it doesn't really matter. But of course, anytime UofL and UK take the floor together, it matters. Got through 4 sets. It was tied 2-2, and the coaches laughed. The coaches asked the teams if they wanted to play the fifth set because it's spring play. Like, they don't always do that, right? They'll sometimes just leave it as a 2-2 tie. And they said, "You want to play this fifth set?" And everybody was like, "Yeah, of course we do." it's like, yeah.
Is that a question?
Yeah, come on. How can you even ask that? Yeah, no, they definitely wanted to get out there and finish it out. Good play. Good, 2 really good teams. It's fun to watch them play.
So the weather did kind of predict a couple things that wouldn't happen yesterday. Softball was supposed to start yesterday. They've changed to a doubleheader today, though. And it was just way too wet for softball to be played.
No doubt.
Obviously, I mean, it was just ridiculous. Yeah.
Even on Don
Dabuna
Field, which drains really, really
Yeah,
well.
it's a fast draining field out there. That's for
But
sure.
it was just monsoons yesterday, so yeah.
And
So I'm gonna try and get out there today and watch. They got doubleheader out there today as a result, so I'm gonna try and get out there.
They'll be playing too. I haven't looked at the long range forecast. I know it's blue skies and white clouds right now, so it looks beautiful outside my office window here. So
windy, so that could cause some problems. So
be careful over there at the ACC Center, right? The fly balls could be headed their way.
yeah, I mean, it depends on the direction the wind's going, but right now I suspect they're looking like they're coming out of the west. So I would say be careful on Arthur Street and on the berms up there, going out to right field.
Yeah, for sure. Be careful out there if you go out there, but have fun out there too. And if you're going to sit on the berm, maybe take a chair, because I bet the berm is still wet.
Yeah, probably is.
So, as for me, it was a fun day yesterday. I had a morning appointment with the doctors, and I was done with all that right around 11:30. So I was able to rush home and talk with Sonia a little bit, eat a little bit, and then sit down in front of the TV and watch basketball for 12 straight hours. And that was basically the way it turned out. I was watching replays of games and then real games. And I guess about 11 o'clock, it all kind of just came together in one big brain fart in my mind and said, "My God, we're beating Mississippi. How about this, huh? Wow." Yeah. That's past my bedtime, too. I don't mind telling you.
We were supposed to. I mean, we are seated higher than they are.
I mean, yeah, we were getting like, listening to the ESPN broadcast, I could not have told that we were in the game.
That's true. We were seated higher, but we weren't getting the lion's share of
It
the
was all Mississippi
Oh,
Oh, I have thoughts
conversation.
on that if we want to get into
yes.
that already.
Oh yeah, we'll devote the second half of the show to that because I'm sure all of us are going to be able to make some comments about the way that ESPN is handling things here in our fair city as far as respect. We'll get to that though. As we like to do in the show, we forgot about it last week, so I'm going to have Casey do it twice this week.
Oh no.
Scheduling and Twitter information, and also we had kind of debated on whether to give out the Twitter information on us again or not. I'll leave it up to you, Case. I mean, it takes you 30 seconds to do that, but go ahead and catch us up on scheduling and Twitter, and then once you finish, go back and do last week for us. Just
Yeah.
make some fun. No.
Well, they have removed two-factor authentication from Twitter, and they're gonna draw down the verification
SMS.
badges. Yeah. Well, if you don't pay for Twitter Blue. Either
Okay. Yeah,
either way. Either way.
you can do other two factors.
Sure. Things are looking grim. But as for the schedule, we are going to start trimming it down a little bit. Not that will shorten today's schedule or much of this week's at all. Looking only at the women's sports going forward. Women's golf taking part in the Liz Murphy Collegiate Classic hosted by Georgia in Athens today and tomorrow. Rowing is in Bloomington taking on IU in Minnesota. It seems kind of chilly, but good luck to them. Lacrosse, as Paulie mentioned, taking on Syracuse. Number one team in the country comes to Louisville for the second time, but it's a different number one team this time. That one is at the Louisville Lacrosse Stadium at noon today and will be available on ACC Network Extra. Softball, as we've talked about, doubleheader taking on NC State with the first game at 4. That game was immovable. So it will, because it's on ACC Network linear, and then the second game will be following the conclusion of the first, currently listed as an expected start of 6:30 on ACC Network Extra. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, women's golf continues. Women's tennis hosts NC State at noon. Softball with the wrap-up game against NC State at 12:30 tomorrow. And women's basketball, the big one, taking on number 2 Iowa, second seeded, not number 2, but thanks for that weird description schedule. Second seeded Iowa at 9 p.m. on ESPN in Seattle, Washington. Tuesday sees lacrosse take on Ohio State on the road at 4 p.m. No video listed for that. If there is anything, it'd be Big Ten Plus paid network there. Wednesday, softball heads to Lexington. They're taking on Kentucky at 6:30 p.m. That one will be on ESPNU. Friday, track is split events. Half the team at the Texas Relays in Austin. The other half at the Stanford Invitational in Palo Alto. Women's tennis heads to South Bend to take on Notre Dame. Rowing will be at the Sunshine State Invitational in Sarasota. Doesn't say who the hosting team is for that. Softball begins a 3-game set against Syracuse on the road at 3 p.m. Volleyball will have a spring scrimmage against Athletes Unlimited. Which teams, Jeff? Do you know, or which players from?
I'm guessing they have like a touring team. I know they're going to a bunch of different schools where players from Athletes Unlimited played. So I suspect they're going to make sure that, when they come to UofL, they're going to be, playing Erin Ferris because she played here, stuff like that. So I don't know. I mean, there is no real one, set teams for Athletes
It's
Unlimited.
unlimited.
Right, that's why I mean.
Right.
Like
they redraft every week. So
I
I suspect they're just going to pick, whatever set of players is available and wants to play in that week and do it. So
that one is at 6 p.m. If Louisville wins on Sunday in women's basketball, their Final Four game would also, I'm just saying, would also be Friday night. So potential scheduling conflict there for old Jeff. He's gonna have to do the watch on the phone method potentially. that gets us through Friday. So, like I said, still a busy schedule for just our women's teams this week. We'll just blast through Twitter real quick. My tweet is at best case scenario. Paulie is at Cardinal Couple. Jeff is at Card Couple Radio and at Jeff McAdams. Jared's Mr. Anderson Jared. Daryl is at Daryl Faust 4. And then on the right side of the Cardinal Couple website, you can follow along with all the UofL athletics Twitter accounts on our Twitter widget.
Absolutely. If there are any doubts, go over there and check it out. A lot of other interesting stuff on the right hand side of the site. And of course, while you're on the page, don't don't forget to look at the daily articles. Always fun, always a good idea to read those as well. They'll keep you updated on stuff. And we'd love for you to be updated on stuff. But as Case had mentioned a little earlier, we do have lacrosse in the house today at noon. And coming to town, number one Syracuse. So let's go ahead and start it there, Case. The Cards will just keep going down this tough path. We're another number one in town. Wow.
Yeah, it's no rest for the weary. For this lacrosse team, they've had to be up against it. We talk about it pretty much every week. That's just the way things go in the ACC with lacrosse. It's a tough schedule. It's a tough conference. Louisville is doing what they can this season. So far, 4-5 overall, which doesn't sound great, but you look at the teams they've played. Already had to play number 5, Boston College. Had to play number 1, North Carolina. Tough loss in their last outing against Marquette. Would have liked to have picked up a win to get some momentum before you have to play Syracuse and then head on the road to Ohio State. But that's the way it goes. So we'll see if Louisville can make something happen against Syracuse.
Hopefully, Card will be able to come out and play strong against them. What about the Cuse, you say? What is this team that's number one? What happened to North Carolina? Well, North Carolina took a loss earlier in the schedule. Syracuse is still 10-0, and they're also 4-0 in the ACC. It is the best start in Syracuse's program history. They took down number 6 Stony Brook last time out, and I kind of had to double check that Stony Brook is number 6 in lacrosse, but they are. Beat them 16-11 on Wednesday, giving the Orange their 4th win against a top 10 opponent and 6th against a top 20 opponent this season. So no slacking in the Syracuse schedule there for sure. They have quite a bit of talent on this team. Megan Carney comes to mind right away. Olivia Anderson, another one that absolutely dominates draw control, an area that Louisville has had trouble with in the past. So that's not good. They've got somebody coming in who's very good at that. Emma Tyrell, Delaney Switzy, they've got talent galore coming into town. So Teeter's going to have to be ready for this, Daryl. He's going to have a defense that's lined up to keep them from putting the ball in the net. And most of all, they've got to have quick response if Syracuse does score on them, that they can come down and at least get some offense established.
Yeah, and I was looking at the schedule for Syracuse, and the last couple ones, it's not like they're blowing out teams like North Carolina was doing when they were number 1. The 20-7 wins, yada yada. It's a lot closer in their previous matchups, so it's possibly an opportunity for Louisville to steal one, at least make it pretty close. And you'd like to get that one for Coach Teeter to just get some momentum as they look to the second half of this schedule. And I mean, I feel like North Carolina's been that monkey on their back or for years. Everybody's monkey on their back. Maybe just a good thing we can switch it up a little and it won't seem so intimidating.
Yeah, let's replace that one number one with another number one. Hey, let's play them both while we're at it. Oh gosh, wonderful stuff there. But the Cards are 4-5 on this season so far, 1-3 in ACC play, being led by a couple of likely suspects in Nicole Peroni and also Hannah Morris, who lead the team in scoring up there. They had 3 goals each against North Carolina in that defeat. You take a look at that, Louisville has definitely got some players who can get the ball in the net. They've definitely got some other help in the Nakazawa sisters who can move the ball quite well. Allegra Catalano, somebody who can provide a lot of offense. Goalkeeper, yeah, it is what it is. Uh, it's tough to be a goalkeeper night in and night out and day out against the best that the ACC has to offer, obviously. But Jeff, Teeter's got a good team here. It's just he's in a conference where good teams are running the mill.
Yeah, we talked about it numerous times. I mean, it's ACC. It's a brutal conference in several sports that we play in, field hockey as well, but lacrosse is certainly the case. Both men's and women's, for what it's worth. We don't have a men's team, obviously, but they do have. ACC does play it, and it's equally brutal on that side of the equation. So, yeah, it's tough. You're gonna take losses in conference, and you're gonna take a bunch of them. You just try to pick up wins here and there, and build your team. And I'm always of the opinion with this is that you're if you've done a better job this year than you did the last year, then good, keep going, right? Um, Support what we've got and continue to improve on it, continuous improvement. And, you get there. It takes a while, though.
It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day just looking outside the window here for lacrosse. So hopefully, the little bit of a wind blowing, which I think maybe.
I was gonna say little bit of wind. I'm like in the middle of the
Yeah.
house and I can feel it.
Yeah. I don't think
I'm
that
not
impacts lacrosse that much, though. Certainly less than it does softball. So,
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the ball tends to stay on the ground.
yeah.
The wind's not going to get to it that much. It might kind of knock the players around a little bit, but based on where the actual stadium is on campus, there is no natural wind shield anywhere
Yeah.
unless the wind is coming down from the north. If that's the case, then the actual SAC
It's the
building,
building, yeah.
or
You know
not
what
the
else
SAC
though?
building, but
It's loud. You know how if you're like riding in a boat and you like turn your head to the side and it's not as loud,
right.
but that's how hard the wind's blowing right now. I feel like if you turn your head to a certain way, you can't hear. So maybe that like interrupts offensive flow. Just talking to your teammates. So I'm
We
pulling
just
at strings here,
we,
guys.
we we just got a comment from the peanut gallery here. It says, "A little wind, this Jared. A little wind. I need paperweights to hold me down out there." So he's it is. I mean, it's a very windy day. That's going to affect people to some degree. Yeah, I will stand by my statement that it affects lacrosse less than softball, but that's not to say it doesn't affect it at all.
So if anybody is on campus and knows where the lacrosse stadium is, please gather up every paperweight you can find and
Right?
bring them to Jared.
Throw it at Jared.
He'll be the one blown up against the fence,
Yeah.
trying to extricate himself so he can take a picture. Yeah, that. and I've been out there. Jeff and I, you've been out there before and sat in those bleachers years ago
Hmm.
when that wind can whip through there.
Absolutely.
It's not a pleasant thing. I can tell
No,
you that.
there really is not much. There are some trees at the south end of the field, but they're not dense. They
Yeah,
don't really cut down the wind that much.
they're
There's
saplings. They haven't grown at
yeah.
all.
The east side does have I-65 kind of up on a berm, blocks a little bit, but again, the wind's probably not coming from that direction, but coming from that west, it's across the train tracks. There's not much.
Yeah, and when it comes in and hits those bleachers like that full strength,
Yeah.
it can be chilly. I've also sat up in that press box
Hmm.
where the wind was actually coming in from the east, and they keep the windows open up there so they can hear the action.
Right.
So to be
And
sitting there and having the breeze hit you for the full 4 quarters.
They have to be careful with those windows so they don't get blown around too.
Oh,
Sometimes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I actually had a
also,
soccer goal almost fall on me at Louisville Lacrosse Stadium one time. It was supposed to
dude,
be. They had intramurals for some. I don't remember why we were going to be playing them on the lacrosse field instead of an intramural field, but that was beside the point. But the game got canceled for the weather. But both teams were there, so we were just playing pickup soccer. And yeah, the whole goal started to come down. Just
Wow.
missed the back of my heels. I was like, that's cool. I'm going home. Goodbye.
Yeah.
So this has been fun. Not.
We did not
See
attempt.
ya.
We did not lift it back up. We just left.
shout out to Jared for getting out there today and
Yeah.
covering the team against the #1 squad. Thanks for those pictures.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So we'll be featuring those photos from the lacrosse game, obviously, in the Sunday Cardinal couple as well. Also, in the pictures of Jared trying to extricate himself from the fence, and Jared 15 feet in the air, hovering over the stadium, almost like a deity. No.
And talking about how busy athletics is right now, they didn't have anybody officially at the volleyball match last night, so I think they were using some of Jared's pictures for some of theirs. So
Yeah, they had actually
uh,
contacted him
yeah,
and said to him, "Hey, uh, being is we don't have anybody
yeah,
here. Would you mind taking or letting us have some of your pictures?" And
yeah. I'm sure they had some people downtown at the Yum. I know I saw Tara Smith out in Seattle with the women's team. So I mean, they're kind of spread thin. So
yeah, she's out there. So some things, but I don't know how much she actually hits volleyball or not. I mean,
I've
she's
seen her there a few times, but I mean, they'll rotate. Sometimes you see Adam Creech, sometimes Tara Smith. So they'll rotate who's there.
they kind of do that. But anyway, it's
Yeah.
something that will be going on, and then in addition to that, there's also going to be softball on campus for UofL as the Cards had a game scheduled for yesterday. Not so much there. The weather kind of got in the way of that case.
Yeah, it was as we've talked about. It was quite a quite a storm that rolled in. Really, the storm part came in overnight, but as was forecasted, some of our own atmospheric rivers, like they've been calling them, hitting California this season, pretty much nonstop out there. But this one came up from the Gulf, um, met with I think a stationary cold front here in this region, and just started dumping rain on us. And it just kept dumping rain on us. It was funny looking out the window at um, all the visitors from various places working downtown near the Center, and uh, as is a rite of passage for any first-time Louisville visitors, they were all headed towards Louisville Slugger Museum or away from it with their tiny bats. I don't
Yeah.
know what they. I don't know why everybody's so excited to get the tiny bat. It's like you're a Princeton fan in Louisville for a basketball game. I don't know that Princeton's really super big on baseball, but
Come
I-
on, Case. We've been doing that since we were like 7 years old and on field trips. These people do
they
not
have
have
no idea.
I have a tiny bat on my desk right now, actually.
I have a tiny bat
Because
from the
so
ACC tournament.
So I went out there last week. Was it last week? I took a couple of days off just to kind of mental health break, and I had not been to the Louisville Slugger Museum and Bat Factory since it had moved back into Louisville.
Wow.
So I took the opportunity to go out there, got my little tiny bat. So
A little local tourist action.
yeah, it really was.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with
I
it.
had to clean a
I
car
have
out.
bats in my office right now.
Oh yeah, I had to
I-
clean a car
I
out.
have them.
The car I had to clean out had 4 bats in it,
Just call them
Four
like
mini bats,
defensive weapons or something.
plus a large scale actual regulation baseball bat with my name on it that was made for us when I was members of the parish house years ago. Every member had a bat made for them by the Louisville Slugger.
Nice.
I still carry that in my trunk too. So if anybody ever attacks me, I've got 4 small bats, 1 big bat, and also who knows what else is in that trunk. I'm kind of afraid to look, but don't come after me. I have weapons.
All that was to say that those people did not seem to be enjoying the steady rain that was coming down.
For sure.
But they were tolerating it better than softball would have, like we talked about.
Absolutely.
The rain just kept coming. The field was getting soggier. Our yard was getting soggier. Culminated last night, actually, after the Louisville game. It was really coming down. Tried to take my dog out before we went to bed, and she.
It's a whole lot of nope there.
Yeah, we were out there for about 30 seconds, got soaking wet. She didn't do anything. We came back inside. It was almost wading depth out in the yard. So
Wow.
yeah, they'll do better today. It'll probably be pretty soft. The sun is out, but it's not super warm. The wind will help with evaporation, but there might be some weird skips on the grass.
Yeah, I'm thinking that outfield is going to be a little bit soaked out there still by 4 p.m., but we'll see. Like Jeff said, it does drain well out at Omer.
Yeah, it really does.
Whether it can drain all that off and make it where,
it drains really well, but that was a lot of water.
And there was a lot of, I know we got close to 3 inches out here because just I can tell by what's standing in my yard. And also, I have a garage that leaks, which necessitates we have a pump where we have to pump the garage out, and we had to do that early this morning to get all the water out of it. The joys of home ownership.
Hmm.
Anyway, that's the way it rolls. The Cards are like playing two today. Uh, Casey talked about the TV, the linear setup on this one. The first game on the ACC network, and then the following game will be on ACC Network Extra. So if you get tired of watching basketball, switch on over and watch the Cards play just a little bit of softball out at Omer Stadium. And certainly we wish them a lot of luck today against
Yeah.
NC State.
And as long as UofL softball games have been going this year, they've been trending a lot longer this year. I think because we have lots of pitchers that we shift in and out all the time. It could be a late night again.
Yeah, well, you figure the first game at 4, let's say just roughly the second game
6:30 at
6:30,
least.
yeah. I was
Yeah,
going to say 6:30, yeah.
probably almost 7, probably.
So you may not get out of there till 8:30, 9 o'clock then.
Yeah, or later.
And I'm expecting Jared will probably head over to do post game. So
Yep.
maybe you can go down and interview Holly for once. Oh,
Yeah, I went down there last week, but I let Jared ask the question. So
you stood by and smiled as they looked at you and
Yeah.
asked. It's like,
yeah,
who is this man? And why is he watching Jared?
yeah, we chatted. We,
FBI, sure. So there you have it. Softball today. A nice diversion for you if you're getting burned out on basketball, but certainly we're not here as we move on into the basketball. Let's talk about this game last night, shall we? Holy cow, the Cards coming in, winning 72-62 over a Mississippi State team Mississippi team that had not been allowing over 50 points a game. Well, we kind of blew that out of the water, didn't we now?
Yeah.
That looked pretty good. Jeff Walls said, we're not being respected, that ESPN didn't know we were playing. But certainly, if you watched the game, you knew we were playing by the way that we kind of took it to them and did not relinquish anything to them. Let's just kind of start it off with Daryl. Daryl, I know you've got a lot to say about this game last night. Go ahead, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, we can talk about the game. We can talk about the broadcast. We can talk about all kinds of elements of this one. But coming into it, if anyone read my preview, thought it would be a lot closer, come down to the wire. Like I said, when we opened that, or like Coach Wall said, that Ole Miss is the sexy team here. They were on a run, and I thought maybe this could be that Cinderella story from 2013 when Louisville beats Baylor and Tennessee in the Elite Eight and Sweet 16. But luckily, that wasn't the case for Mississippi State, Ole Miss. Their road ends here, and I think it's kind of, it feels, how do I say this? It feels right. Like Louisville is that team that they deserve to be here. They're a top dog, and it's just kind of wild to me the way we talked about this team all year. Like they could get upset in the first round. They could. I mean, if they go on a scoring drought like they have multiple times this season, that they could be a team that gets upset in the first round, and then they get that 5 seed, which is like notorious 5-12 upsets, and they pull it out against Drake, and then they stomp Texas. So I mean, this team is now in the Elite Eight, which is bizarre because they weren't really in the top 25 all season. So to now say that they're one of the top 8 teams in the country, they're peaking at the right time. I mean, if you want to get into individual performances or as a whole, there's just so much to say about the game last night. I don't want to take too much time, just my overall thoughts, but it was kind of nerve-wracking the way that Ole Miss comes out and they start shooting. And Case mentioned it a few times in the article today about how the basket wasn't really being favorable for Haley Van Lith there for a little bit. They're able to pull it within 5 with however many minutes left, and you start thinking like, like it's possible that I wasn't comfortable. I don't know about you all. I was not comfortable with a 10-point lead heading into the fourth quarter. Still an opportunity for this team to come back and get some shots to fall, but the Cards defense was just so impressive in the way they disrupted Ole Miss for how many minutes at a time? I think they didn't score for like 7 minutes.
I think they had 2 droughts longer than 5 minutes.
yeah, significant droughts for them. Um, and the Cards really just turned it up. I think my prediction for this game was like 60-54, and they blew that out of the water, even without Carr going off. We're getting good performance by Liz Dixon, and Morgan Jones is starting to find some sort of flow. I was calling her Mojo last night. I don't know what took me so long to come up with that. Maybe because
That
she
was right there.
hadn't, yeah,
I didn't get it either. So
maybe because she hadn't actually found her mojo all season, and until it's down to the wire, and she's starting, or I mean, she really is finding some sort of way to contribute, because she still can't get that layup to fall. I don't know what it is. She's too strong. She's so fast. She cannot get that bucket to fall. And there was a period where she had like 4 shot attempts in a row. That's when Cards started to go a little cold. I think they were up like 24-16, something like that, and then all of a sudden, Ole Miss goes on their run to get it within 3 or whatever, and then perhaps take the lead before Haley Van Lith decides to take over. And it's just, what a game! So glad that they were able to pull it out, and I I think it was a convincing win, and Iowa should be a little worried.
I think Iowa indeed should be worried. Case had the write up on it today. I know that he's got a lot to say about this one as well. It was, a fourth quarter where Daryl mentioned she was not comfortable, and I typed out, "Now it's nervous time," in our group chat, because that's when I get the most nervous, when teams have made runs at us in the past in the fourth quarter. Uh, Fortunately, we did okay. Case, we hung in there and kept that lead.
Yeah, Louisville had given themselves the benefit of that 10-point cushion, like we talked about, um, through just consistent play. In the first quarter and the third quarter, they took 5-point leads um, in both of those quarters. Didn't lose any quarters, which was also impressive, despite the efforts made by Ole Miss in the second and the fourth. But that 10-point cushion really gave you some breathing room. They would have liked to had more breathing room. Both teams a little chilled at the start of the fourth quarter. Louisville was able to push their lead to 12 a couple of times, but that was pretty quickly brought back down. And then just as quick as you like, they hit a 3-pointer off an offensive rebound. The ugliest shot I think I've seen in quite some time. It was that shooting form from Angel Baker was painful
Yeah,
to watch,
I agree.
especially watching it go into the basket off an offensive rebound. You're like, even worse. And then and then Louisville, as they had been doing in that fourth quarter, and they talked about it a lot on the broadcast, uh, just playing too passively. Louisville had gotten where they were by being aggressive. Um, you can't play against a full court press team passively and try to run clock when you've only got a 10-point lead. It's not enough. It can go away far too quickly. Um, Louisville just got Haley Van Lith got a little passive. Just was trying to run clock, held the ball over her head, and Maya Taylor was like, "Okay." Just reached up, smacked it out of her
yoink.
hands, and and gets the fast break. It was extremely smart by Haley Van Lith on that one. I think she could have been called for a foul, but she made it tough to call her for the foul, with just a slight body bump. Made sure not to reach out and smack Taylor. Just playing with 3 fouls at that point would have been very unfortunate for her to pick up a fourth there. You just give up the 2 points and you come back to try to recover it. And she did, immediately on the very next play. She gets those 2 points back, and Louisville able to, from there on, push their lead back out and get the win. Really, after the passivity of the opening part of the fourth quarter, once that lead got down to 5, you kind of expected a called timeout from Jeff Walls, but just like in the first half, after that 14-3 run um, where Ole Miss took the lead, he didn't call timeout. He just let the team work it out themselves, and they did. They responded from there on. They responded to every action by Ole Miss with a equal and opposite reaction. Some second laws of physics. uh, but able to push
Second.
that lead back out to 10, and ultimately hold on for the win. It was definitely a nervy one, like you said, Paul. Nervous time for sure. I wasn't comfortable with a 5-point lead and 3 minutes left. Uh, wouldn't say I expected Louisville to wilt, but wouldn't have been surprised if they had. And fortunately, they toughened up and made it happen.
There was a precedent there where you had to think it. And when you were speaking of physics, I don't know if there is a physics law that applies to how fast Casa Robinson gets the ball down the court, or if there's a physics law that applies to Morgan Jones standing at the top of the circle and then going in a la World War II yeah, fighter pilot from Japan going in to attack the hoop with a 50% success rate. Yeah, if I was on defense and saw her coming at me with that full head of steam, I'd step back and do the Torador Matador.
She reminds me a little bit of Russ Smith in that, where she'll sometimes she can have a lot of speed, she can score a lot, and sometimes she just overruns the basket by about 40 feet, and the ball rockets off the backboard to somewhere unknown.
A little out of control on occasion.
You know she's coming. How will it turn out? We don't know.
I think she likes pancakes.
I think she does indeed.
Speaking of individuals, guys, I was thinking just of everyone's performance. Do you all remember when Marissa Russell got her ankles broke?
Yes.
She hit the floor.
Oh yeah, she went down.
Haley Van Lith did it like 2 possessions later, and nobody mentioned it.
Yeah. Well, in Marissa's case, I was just, it was embarrassing, but I think the way that she fell, she's trying to avoid injury, which I'm glad for. So it looked bad, but her recovery. Do you know what I'm talking about? She sprints down the floor. She gives it to Haley. Haley gives it back because she gets underneath, and I think she had a bucket there, but she also had a huge block right after breaking her ankles. So her recovery made it to where you don't even remember her breaking ankles. So I just thought that was just great energy from her. And also you mentioned Casa. I think I said it in our text that it was noticeable of her energy. And I was a little worried, guys. She was not moving as fast as she does. She was walking up the court, and you never know what's going on with somebody. Maybe I don't want to gross anybody out, but maybe it's her time of the month and she's just slow. But I just noticed how slow she was, and it was making me a little nervous. She was getting frustrated with, I don't know if whatever play call. She just looked to me like in the first 3 quarters, just not her usual self. She wasn't jumping back on defense. If she got beat, she was kind of like staying down at the other end rather than going back on our end. So I hope that her energy is up on Sunday, and this is not a knock towards her performance on Friday night because she did play well. She was strong. She got buckets when we needed it. She was drawing fouls, and she did play hard, but I just noticed her energy was very, very low Friday night.
It's also,
just to give her a lot of credit. I know you did, Daryl, but she finished with 11 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists.
Oh yeah,
particularly for her, that's a really good selling. But also, they were playing at all their bodies were saying it was 10 o'clock at night.
True.
So that doesn't help.
7 their time though.
Yeah.
And Ole Miss had apparently stayed out there after Stanford.
Yeah.
So they were there, and they were probably used to that time change.
More completely acclimated to it.
Interesting stuff indeed as far as the Cards and the time zone change. One of the things that I noticed about Louisville is the Cards, I don't know, they shot 45%. Come on. That's not bad.
No.
Not at all.
Case has his own 4-letter acronym that he grades games out by, in addition to doing the Fred report. I don't know. I guess we could do a Jeff report and a Paul report if we wanted to expand this thing past stupidity here.
I can't seem to remember to do the Fred report. So
yeah, and with Jeff, right about the ball game, not about what you're expecting out of volleyball in the spring. But okay, anyway,
I just don't do many recaps.
Yeah, we don't let Jeff do many recaps for a reason.
Yeah,
Saturday games are infrequent.
Yeah, they're not very common.
They absolutely are. He gets the break on that, but 45% is not bad shooting, kids.
No,
we did pretty good. And you take a look at what we did in the clutch quarter. We were 7 for 16, which is just a little bit below 50%, but not bad. They shot the ball well. One of the deals that got me in this game, though, and I'm going to go completely away from the actual action of the game, was the actual commentary on the game and ESPN's treatment of the game.
Here we go.
Yeah, that's to say,
I have opened this door, and the wind is blown in. Did we play last night?
Guys,
Because if you had listened to ESPN, you wouldn't have known.
as somebody who I've seen the back end of this, I know that there can be bias. I know that it's someone's job to script the narratives and the way that these teams are talked about. It's noticeable to me when they say, how is Louisville or how is Ole Miss going to get back into this thing, rather than how is Louisville going to pull away and put this thing away? Or when they go to break and they show a graphic of Ole Miss players combined and their total points versus the rest of the team, and they come back and they're constantly talking about Coach Yo, and I just noticed things like that. And then and eventually it did start to be like, okay, we want to talk to Louisville. We pull Coach Walls after the first quarter to talk to him. We pull Haley Van Lith at the halftime break to talk to him. That is just horrible timing to me. I don't think it's appropriate to talk to a player at the halftime break.
I agree.
And pull Coach Walls from a quarter break. It's just things like that add up to me. And I thought, I mean, Holly Rowe called her Haley Von Lith. How many times have you covered her this year, or in her 3 years? How many times have you been at the Yum Center? It's just noticeable things like that to me. That's why Coach Walls says things like, "Well, I guess we're not the sexy team," or their broadcast crew is already putting Ole Miss against Iowa. Those kind of things are noticeable to me, and it just fuels the fire of ESPN hates Louisville. ESPN is driven by the SEC. Yada yada, whatever you want to be or whatever you want to call it. It's noticeable.
I just figured he was fishing for compliments from Olivia Cochran.
I just
It'll work.
I'll say to not defend them, because I don't disagree with a lot of the statements. It's a weird situation once you get to tournament time. Louisville's not expected to be there. Obviously, Ole Miss wasn't either, but you're not expecting Louisville to have made it. You would have thought Texas gets out of their home court, right or wrong. And you're probably in your prep work planning for other teams to be in this region once you get there, especially Stanford. All of a sudden, oh, wow, Stanford's upset. Now we have an upset story to talk about. Louisville makes it. They're not the team you planned to. You expected from the jump to be talking about Stanford's performance against whatever team they were playing. So kind of a lot of your thought process is going to be about that. And I think to Ole Miss's credit a little bit, they were probably underseeded. Kind of reminded me of the 2014 Kentucky men's team that was an 8 seed that probably shouldn't have been and was an 8 seed just to get them to play Louisville in the round of 32. And Ole Miss just ended up where they were. So they are the fun story, having been whatever a 3 or 4 win team a few years ago. They're the more fun story to talk about. But I agree, it's pretty lame that you're talking about that, and about how they need to turn around and get things back together as if they were a 1 seed that deserved to be where they were, and not that Louisville was kind of obliterating the defensive philosophy that they had in their first 2 games. And it was definitely a what is Mississippi doing wrong, and not what is Louisville doing right kind of broadcast.
And to be fair, if you got Coach Yo on the sidelines, you're going to talk about her.
Well,
She's
you also had her on the court. Playing defense.
Yeah. But you're going to talk about her because she's a character. She's a delightful character, to be clear.
And Coach Walls isn't?
Well, yeah.
She's not delightful to some people.
Right.
He
Well,
is not
but again,
likable.
okay. We were talking about earlier, who's got more energy, Coach Yo or Coach Purcell? They're going to play a lot. These these storylines you talk about, they're going to have to decide on who they're going to like look at a little more. So, I get it. She's fun. I'd love to have her as our coach as well. So,
I would not. I would not want her as our coach. I would switch my loyalties to Bellarmine or to Kentucky or possibly even IU with
Whoa.
someone else. I would not take her as our coach.
yeah.
Coach O would have to go as far as I'm concerned.
Wow. All right.
I just think she's blowing her horn way too much. She didn't have that great a team. ESPN grabbed a hold of it, and notice who they had in here for the color commentary of this game. They brought
Stephanie
in
White.
Carolyn Peck, and also Carolyn Peck had coached in the SEC as of a
No,
couple
it
years
was
ago.
Stephanie White.
There we
wasn't it?
go.
And Carolyn Peck coached in the SEC a couple of years ago before she got
Yeah,
let go. Let's say
color
down in Jeff,
color-
I know you're dying to get in here. Would you let me finish?
because you got the wrong person.
Absolutely.
It was
Carolyn
Stephanie
Peck-
White. It was Stephanie White on color commentary.
Carolyn Peck was on the broadcast, dude.
She was back in the studio, maybe. No, she wasn't even that.
Okay, fine.
Y'all let me do some digging, and I'll find that the director of the show is an Ole Miss alumni. Just
Yeah,
yeah.
Absolutely so. Yeah, and then it actually bounced it off a satellite signal down in Oxford before it came to Louisville, so they could all turn into tuck from it. But okay, let's ESPN. Let's go ahead and recognize that Louisville
Yeah.
is basically in this tournament, and they're playing pretty good, and they're in the final 8 now. And let's go ahead and give the Cards a little bit of credit.
Yeah. We can all agree on that.
The sad thing being is, they saved 2 of my favorites until today, in Deb Antonelli and Beth Mowens.
Oh man.
Yeah.
They did not let them call anything at all yesterday, but they were out there bright and early this morning calling the Maryland game. So hopefully we'll have them available for Final Four and also final game action, because that's your flagship crew right there.
Yeah, they're great.
Absolutely.
They are fantastic, and Deb Antonelli has forgotten more about basketball than I'll ever know, and she is a wealth of knowledge. And you can just tell that brain is clicking all the time to what she's going to look for. She would have been bored to crap with our game last night because it was not an offensive affair.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true.
So anyway, we'll turn it back to you guys on this. I do want to talk about our contest just briefly a little bit, but Daryl, we're going to the grade 8. This is fantastic. This is fine. Iowa waits for us there. What can we expect here?
Oh man, I think the Cards are they are successful when they disrupt the other team, enough to where they can't come back. When they move the ball around well. I mean, yesterday's game they were struggled in those first couple of minutes to get their feet under them. I think the biggest lead for Ole Miss was like 9-3, something like that. Just a couple minutes in. But then they started to figure it out. Haley said, enough of this, and I'm going to take over. And when she got a little cold, the rest of the team started to figure out their shots. I think that Iowa has a great team. They've got Caitlin Clark, and I forget the girl underneath. Is it like Cicero or something?
Saranac, something like that.
Something like that. She is big, but I think that Louisville's bigs, Olivia Cochran and Liz Dixon, they have the capability to disrupt her and show that some dominance underneath. Their interchangeability, Olivia and Dixon, is just, it's so important for our team, because if you need to pull one out because she's not making shots or she's in foul trouble, you put the other one in, she's got fresh legs and she's nailing the shots. It's so important that we have that interchangeability under the basket. And then I mentioned it in my post that Crystalline Cars, if she got going offensively, this team could put up 80 points. But, her role right now is being a defensive a little bit of a nightmare for the other team, and I'll take it. She's drawing defenders, but she's hitting some shots when we need them, but she's not, putting up the big numbers. Iowa's going to do that. I think if we keep Caitlin Clark to a mild 15-point performance, that Louisville could win. And this team has been to the Final Four. They were just there last year. I just have a feeling that Haley is telling them, we are one win away from a Final Four, you all. This is the reason you came here. This is what we uh, play all year for is this time of year. We're not done playing with each other. Let's go to the next weekend. Um, they are one win away from a Final Four, guys. That's just, I got chills thinking about it because this is a team that was barely in the top 25 all season.
Absolutely so. The team that was not respected by the pollsters all year after that early season loss streak we had. But guess who's there? Guess who's there? Case, Louisville, Iowa. What you thought?
Yeah, I put it in the article. The defensive scout is pretty clear when you're playing a team like Iowa. You have to um, make somebody else beat you other than Caitlin Clark. Um, for some people or for some teams, when you've got one really good player, uh, the idea is, take away everything else because that player is going to get theirs. But Caitlin Clark has shown that if you do that, she can beat you all on her own. Um, Especially because of the way that she plays, very much an outside shooter. If you have a player that is dominant on the inside, you can kind of give that up. They're going to be making twos. That's not going to hurt you so much. But a player like Caitlin Clark is going to rain threes on you, averaging 27 points a game this season. Sinano is averaging 17, right behind her. But like I
That's
said,
it. Phenomenal.
when you've got an
Sonata.
inside player, you can just kind of to let that go. Not exclusively, but I agree with Daryl. If you can hold her to 15 to 20, Caitlin Clark, that is, make the rest of the team show you what they can do, uh, and play Louisville's brand of basketball that they've been showing they have the ability to do since the postseason started. It's like a whole new team, and Morgan Jones renaissance a bit, scoring double figures in the last two games for the first time since she was taken out of the starting lineup after that Wake game. Uh, Louisville's really kind of coming around and is definitely equipped to beat this Iowa team, but it certainly will be no walk in the park.
Hey, Jeff, guess what? We got 3 Birds teams so far out of the 4 that have qualified. We got Cardinals, we got Hawkeyes, and we've got Sebastian the Ibis.
We
All
do.
there.
Yeah, it's fun. That's
Uh,
cool.
And then, of course, we've got the Fighting Mulkeys. So what a matchup there, huh?
That's right, man.
The Fighting Mulkeys
That's a bird
can,
mascot too.
can
Yeah.
What she was
It
wearing
was
last
trying
night.
to be.
plumes on her arms. She was like, "Look at me, I'm a bird too."
Yeah.
Yes. And there are duck hunters everywhere just salivating at a shot at her.
No love lost for Mulkey around here. Yeah.
Hey, the
Yeah.
yesterday was the 22nd anniversary of Randy Johnson absolutely dusting that bird.
Oh God, yeah. Saw that.
So
Oh God, I remember
so,
that pitch.
so speaking of feathers flying,
Yeah.
It just kind of makes me wonder about the young lady. Anyway, one of the funniest video clips I ever saw was her trying to put a mask on in a post game interview.
Yeah.
She had that thing everywhere but on her butt cheek. I mean, she was all over her face, over her eyes at one time. It's like, it's a simple thing. The mask goes over the nose and the mouth.
Yeah.
Kim, what's your problem here? I don't know. That is just look. I don't know. All right, worldwide. Throw it at me. We got Hawkeyes. We got Cardinals. They're in Seattle. Boom.
Yeah, I love the correlation on the mascots there. That's cool. I hadn't realized it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like Kay said, you gotta stop Caitlin Clark. She is stoppable. It's gonna be hard. We'll probably have to rotate players on her, but you put Casa on her, you put Haley Van Lith on her, you put even Morgan Jones on her as a defensive power, quick. Somebody can always be in their face, always be in her face, always be harassing her a little bit. And then you say, okay, what else you got, Iowa? What else are you going to do here? What can you do? Who else is going to step up? And then you try to answer those. But I think if you shut down Caitlin Clark, you mostly shut down Iowa. So I'm with Case on this one. Stop her and win the game.
Yeah, Clark and Susanna are going to be keys for them, obviously,
Yeah.
for sure. They are two that you've got to shut down. But I think this is like a tailor-made situation. You're sending Haley Van Lith back to the state where she came from. Now, they were talking about like Winnetonka was right next door to Seattle. No, it's not. It's 2.5 hours away.
Yeah. They
Which would be
they
like
were
us saying,
putting that on there sometimes, but yeah, it was
Like us saying that we're right next door to Richmond, Kentucky.
That's
No,
like
we're
a
not.
little drive to Nashville.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just say same thing. It's a big state, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will say that the perception of travel out west is different than it is in the east because states are bigger. People are willing to travel farther. So
As
yeah.
far as I know, 2.5 hours is still in the
But yeah,
2.5
it
hours,
is.
depending
But
on what part of the nation you're in, Jeff. But anyway,
yeah, it is.
enough on that.
Yeah.
Enough on that. My thoughts on the whole thing right now is this is being tailor made for them to crown a new homecoming queen in Haley Van Lith. They brought her back to Seattle. They trucked in 400 of her family members and friends and neighbors and the guy who sold, Miss Van Lith meat at the grocery store on Mondays. Everybody has left that town and come to Seattle. The whole state is basically behind Haley Van Lith. Let's go ahead and crown her. Let's go ahead and move to the Final Four on this. Let's beat this team. Caitlin Clark's great. She's fantastic. How many championships has she won in her time at Iowa? Let me see here. 0. Guess what? How many times has she been to the Final Four since her time at Iowa? What am I seeing again here? It looks like a 0. Okay? Don't give me Iowa. Don't give me the Hawkeyes. I don't want to hear it. And if ESPN goes off on a tangent like that,
oh, they will.
I'm muting them.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting. I'm the tiger in the cage, and the zookeeper just left the lock off.
Yeah. I agree with you, but they will.
Yeah, and they will. They're
Yeah.
going to do that. It's the way they roll. But did want to get into tournament stuff real quickly. Our Cardinal couple NCAA tournament pick 'em. There are discrepancies between Jared and I. Gee, what else is new on the count here? We do have the top 3 correct. We did agree that with 40 wins in our tournament are Jason and also Jared and Karen J. Karen J, if you'll remember, won the ACC pick 'em. So a strong start for those 3 as we roll into the stretch here, basically, of this tournament. Back 1 game behind him with 39 wins. We have Katie. We've got Jeff McAdams. We've got Wahoo Card. We've got Daryl. Daryl in the background, waiting to jump up there. And I've got Sony up there. Jared doesn't have Sony up there. He's the tournament director. I'm sure he'll figure it out. I'm just verifying his count. Okay. And with this 67-year-old brain of mine, maybe I'm not correct on that. But those are basically right now your 8 contenders. Whether anybody with 38 wins can sneak up there and take this thing, I don't know about that. I've got 38 wins, so I could be a possibility, right? No, probably not. Taking a look at what we've got, in case you don't know, it's Louisville, Iowa, and also Miami and LSU that have made it so far. We've also got a game going on currently right now where Maryland is not having a whole lot of trouble with Notre Dame. That could be interesting. We'll see what happens, but let's go ahead and we've had some fun discussing all this today. It's been a lively and spirited discussion about what's going on as far as the cards in the NCAA tournament. Let's go ahead and go into final thoughts, and we'll go ahead and start it with you, Daryl. Final thoughts?
Yeah, my final thoughts would be the game plan, and I think that if you get Sonano in foul trouble, get her on the bench for a little bit. I can't remember. I could picture her who they put in after her. It's escaping me, but I don't think she's as good as Sonano, and Louisville's got that rotation of Liz Dixon and Olivia Cochran, and I think that we can win the paint battle once we get Sonano on the bench, and then Iowa will have to rely on Caitlin Clark, which is fine. I think it's a winning formula for the Cards to come out victorious. Can't forget, we have Coach Walls, guys. We have Coach Walls. He is an advantage in itself. His play calling, I trust more than anything. His motivation. We talked about his ability or his willingness to call timeouts when the going gets tough. And he's going to let them figure it out. And I think that he's done that all season in preparation for these moments. And now is the time to shine.
They'll just replace one big Iowa farm girl with another in a post.
They look very similar, guys.
Gee, what's the difference? Oh, one's got slightly blonder hair. Okay,
blonder hair, literally.
Go ahead and drive on by her. That's fine. She'll catch up with you eventually. Just give her some time. That's the thought on it. Final thoughts, indeed. All right, Case, what do you got on them?
Uh, Hopefully the game on Sunday night is not as late. I mean, I know that it's starting an hour earlier, but that doesn't mean anything could hold on longer if it's close. And it'd be nice if Louisville would just run away with it, and we can be done the uh, with the fourth quarter quickly without having to go into a bunch of fouling and extending it. But uh, other final thoughts are just go Cards on the rest of all the other spring sports that are underway. It's great for Louisville to be back in the Elite Eight, hoping to run for a Final Four, but plenty of other sports to root for this season.
Go Cards, go. Absolutely. It's the most wonderful time of the year. All right, Jeff, what you got for me? Final thoughts.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump way off topic. Actually, we mentioned earlier the two-factor with Twitter stuff. They're removing SMS as the second factor to use for security on your accounts. Please enable two-factor on your accounts, people. SMS is probably the least secure way to do it, so I don't mind losing that. But get an authenticator app, get a authentication token if you really want to do it well. Secure your accounts. There's just it's way too easy for people to get hacked. We're seeing a spate of them on YouTube now as well, where YouTube channels are getting hacked. So um, let me just encourage people to do that. If you are someone who is not so technical, I will put myself out there. Feel free to reach out to me. I will help. Someone who works in the IT field in general, not security particularly, but in the IT field, I will help anybody who wants help in that area.
There you go. You've got it from somebody who is a king of the castle of what he does and what he knows. So that's a very nice offer from you, Jeff, and certainly I hope that people will pay attention to what Jeff is saying here because this isn't fooling around. This is serious
Yeah.
stuff. It is. It is. Unfortunately, the hackers of our world have decided that they're going to rear their ugly heads once again and continue to do that. And we don't like them. So let's see if we can stop them. Uh, Final thoughts from me. I was looking at things here, and I'd already mentioned the bird aspect of things. We have already, believe it or not, kids, got two ACC teams in the grade eight, and we got the possibility for another one today in Notre Dame, and then finally later on as we get into it. Geez, Virginia Tech still alive? Why, yes, they are. That could be four ACC teams in the final eight. Conference superiority, anybody?
Yeah.
SEC? Eh. How about that Big 10 and Big 12 power? No. Pac? No. It's the ACC. We've been saying it all year long. You know what? It doesn't matter where they see us. We're still going to get there, right? Yes, I am being a little bit cocky and I'm walking on a tightrope, and I could be totally wrong by the end of Sunday night. But for right now, yeah, I'm strutting out there. Look at it. ACC,
Yeah.
deal with it. Rest of the D1 programs and deal with it ESPN. Because as far as I'm concerned, they could switch this whole thing over to Bally Sports and I'd be tickled to death. Okay? My final thoughts.
Never easier to cheer for Katie Meyer in Miami.
Absolutely. And we love Katie.
Yeah.
She's been around so long. She's been the long suffering head coach, the longest tenured coach in the ACC, Jeff.
Yeah.
Been there longer than anybody. And what's she got to show for it? She's got some girls who love TikTok now. Isn't that nice? She's got an ibis, a pet ibis. That's got to be good, right? All right, kids. Hey, everybody, thanks for listening. Hope you had fun on the broadcast as much fun as we did. And we'll certainly catch you all next week with the answers to a lot of these questions and probably a lot of pauses as we try to figure out what in the heck happened to what we said, right? We'll see everybody then. Go Cards!